A warm good afternoon to all of us. I would like to welcome all our panel and all the panelists, all the people who have logged in to attend the webinar. A request to all the attendees is that, we would request you that if you have any particular questions, you should put it in the chat box or in the Q&A sessions. And I would request you that you don't directly try to connect with the panelists so that it might disturb them. We have a very distinguished panel today for this webinar. We have Dr. Vinod Tare, Professor IIT Kanpur and the founding member for the Sea Ganga team. We have Dr. Ramnath Sonawne, who is currently the Secretary for the Maharashtra Water Resources and Regulatory Authority. We have Dr. Rashmi Singh, the Additional Municipal Commissioner for the New Delhi Municipal Corporation. We have Dr. Dharmender Gill, who will be joining us, who is just logging in. He is the MD and CEO for Shimla Jal Prabandhan Limited. And we have Mr. Raj Cherubal, the CEO for the Chennai Smart City. So a warm welcome to all the panel members. And I would like to start this session with Dr. Vinod Tare from IIT Kanpur and Sea Ganga. Sir, my first question to you is that, we have all been reading and, hearing about the Namami Gange projects. And we now know that there's been a lockdown for the last 45 days. Sir, if you could share with us something in terms of what has been the impact of this lockdown on the quality of the River Ganga water?
Well, we have done extensive sampling during the lockdown period on various rivers and drains. Of course, this was based on the reports that we have been hearing from people at large and also media, newspapers, that the river and water quality has improved substantially. Now, if you have to prove that scientifically, obviously we need to look at the samples and their analysis, which will take quite some time. But prima facie, I can definitely say that at certain places, particularly if you look at the upper stretches of the Ganga, okay, there the preliminary analysis shows that water has almost become drinkable up to Devprayag and even up to Rishikesh, we can say. Now, I was looking at what is the possible reason. The reason is the floating population in that area is now almost negligible. Okay, and that also means that the local population does not actually contribute that much to the water quality in the river, because they stay quite away and their sewage and wastewater actually does not reach to the river. So from all the parameters that we look at from the bathing point of view or even drinking water point of view, I think up to Rishikesh, the situation has improved substantially. And the main I would attribute is due to the fact that the floating population and all commercial activities like hoteling and other thing is essentially. Of course, the industries are not there that much. Go downstream, in the downstream also we see visibly, yes, river has improved, because the visible condition, the people going very close to the river, that has substantially reduced, and being solid waste and other things, that is completely. Also, we see many industries. The industrial effluents are also not going, and as a result, we can certainly see some. So, sewage is one can definitely say that the situation with respect to sewage
I will just start.
Down is probably not changed substantially. Yet, my initial.
I think our Honorable Minister is with us. Sorry to interrupt, Dr. Tare. We have the Honorable Minister with us.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. I am Bhupinder Singh, CEO of Water India. We are the organizers for over 20 trade fairs, and EFAT India is one of the leading environmental technology trade fair that brings together policymakers, key industry players, thought leaders for learning and networking opportunities. Today, we thank and welcome Honorable Minister Shri Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, Honorable Minister for Jal Shakti, Government of India, for accepting our invitation and taking time out to join us. Sir, welcome. हम सब लोग आपको देख के
नमस्कार,
आपको वेलकम करते हैं.
धन्यवाद सबका.
And thank you, sir. For many of you who don't know, Mr. Shekhawat has a very interesting TED talk, and I think all of us should go and see that TED talk. I would request the team to also put the link of that TED talk in the YouTube video. And Shekhawat sahab, Mr. Anupam Mishra continues to inspire us. And I have seen you talking about water, and I know it's a subject very close to your heart. I would like to tell you that during our last trade shows, we distributed his books. For example, Aaj Bhi Khare Hai Talab, to all our visitors. And sir, 7 years ago, EFAT India started its journey towards building an environmental community, giving momentum to our stakeholders, global ecopreneurs, technocrats, and to help build a sustainable future. Sir, a community that shares love and concern for environmental sustainability. As you know, we are in challenging times, and today's topic on municipal water projects is a crucial one. I also like to thank all the distinguished panelists, the captains, the stalwarts from your industry for joining us as speakers. Thank you. And now I'm pleased to introduce to Mr. Kailash Shirodkar, who is the founder of Smart Water and Wastewater Magazine, who will be moderating the webinar today. So Mr. Shirodkar, without taking any further time, I pass the baton to you. And once again, warm welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Shirodkar, you need to unmute.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Good afternoon, Mr. Minister. A warm welcome to you. We have close to around 750 people from all over India who have already logged in and are listening to you live. So, sir, first a question that I have for you, sir, is that how has the ongoing lockdown and the COVID situation maybe affected some of the large-scale projects that the government had announced, like the Jal Jeevan Mission, the Har Nal Jal, and the NMCG projects, sir?
ठीक है, मुझे ईमानदारी से इस बात को I'll have to accept कि पूरे दुनिया के सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स, पूरी दुनिया के सारे काम जो हैं एक बार इस कोविड के कारण से they were stalled. इसलिए मैं अगर ये कहूँ कि कोई भी प्रभाव किसी भी प्रोजेक्ट पर नहीं पड़ा है तो ये ठीक नहीं होगा, अतिशयोक्ति होगी. But still I can say, as far as the Jal Jeevan Mission is concerned, we were continuously watching that what is happening, and we were motivating the states कि आप जो whatever work you can do over the table, जो आप DPRs बनी हुई हैं उन DPRs को consolidate कर सकते हो, जो you can bifurcate low hanging fruits, because since we have done a study and a survey across the India, pan-India in all the states, that how many number of functional pipe water schemes are there, and we organized a functionality assessment in the month of November through our PSU in almost every part of every state of the country. और उससे हमने ये लगभग हमको ये मिला था कि 50% जो है वो विलेजेस में पाइप वाटर स्कीम किसी न किसी रूप में विद्यमान है, किसी न किसी रूप में. Though they are not connected, the households are not connected, they are in the shape of they are supplying water through stand posts or GLRs, but the availability of water through pipeline is there, or the localized source is available. So during this lockdown, what we did this entire analytical study, and we shared at my level also. I've spoken to all the ministers and I requested them that we have done this study. You go through with this in your state, and you identify low hanging fruits through these studies and data what we are providing to you. और उसके बेस पर आप जो है immediately without any delay, as soon as the works are permitted, आप जो है इसको low hanging fruits को harvest करो, ताकि हमारा जो हमने annual target बनाया है वो target जो है वो defeat नहीं हो. I'm so happy to say that because of the continuous persuasion and continuous push at the level of ministers and then secretaries and principal secretaries. Uska fayda ye hua that states have started working and thinking in that direction. Now, jab se kaam permit hua, I have requested, I again called and we organized meeting of the secretaries also of the states water, drinking water emissions or whatever inform the states they are having. I requested them that consider this as an opportunity to not only provide water, but consider it as a media of providing jobs to the people in the villages. See, my narrative was that if you start working or connecting the household, then you'll have to dig the trenches, lay the pipelines, make the tanks, construct the tanks, and everybody for laying the pipelines and digging the trenches, everybody will get the labor and employment. So it can create another source or media another source of job creation in the villages. So usko lekar ke states ne bahut enthusiasm bhi kiya, aur finally abhi after in this lockdown 4 when it has been started, we have started a series of meetings through the web portals with the chief minister, so it can be pushed in better manner. And since states, what I was thinking is कि स्टेट्स में जो है सबसे बड़ा क्रंच अब की बार उनके पास में जो है वो बजट का आएगा, क्योंकि कोविड रिलेटेड एक्टिविटीज के कारण से सबका जो है रेवेन्यू इट हैज बीन स्ट्रेस्ड, पुश्ड डाउन एंड जो है एक्सपेंडिचर्स बढ़े. बट जो अभी इकोनॉमिक पैकेज जो है आत्मनिर्भर भारत का जो अनाउंस हुआ, in that package states have given liberty to increase their the limit is increased from 3% to 5% their borrowing limit. So that has opened an opportunity to the states to harvest 4,85,000 crores rupees almost. So we requested that since this program is a mission mode program, second is it can create job opportunities in the villages, and third, you can empower the women and especially the poorer people through this FHTC, functional household tap waters. So it's a win-win situation in all the segments. States are really very excited and they have started working. So as far as the Har Nal Jal mission is concerned, still the progress is there despite this lockdown and entire adverse situation throughout the world, the pandemic situation. Another thing is, I wish to share that jo target humne 1920 ke liye what we have capped for us, because it's a 5-year program in mission mode mein isko karna hai. Agar overall picture mein dekho nation ki, to we have not only achieved that milestone, but humne usse bhi aage ja kar ke hum is baar khade ho jayenge. But this year, since it is very critical because post-COVID situations, and so we have started planning for that. उसी के लिए states को push कर रहे हैं. As far as the NMCG projects and other mega projects of water resources are concerned, yes, obviously they have been stalled. उनके उसमें काम भी नहीं हो पाया. We tried our best कि किसी तरह से सारे projects पर काम शुरू हो जाए once again after लॉकडाउन 2 में जब कंस्ट्रक्शन की परमिशंस मिली उसके बाद में most of the places rather I should say that we were able to start the works, but still the labor जो काम कर रहा है वो because of emotive pressures they are running. So जहाँ काम चल भी रहा है वहाँ से भी लोग भाग गए हैं. So it is अभी तक हम सोच रहे हैं कि हम लोग टाइमलाइन पे सब कर पाएंगे, but in the longer run I feel that certainly जो है 2-3 महीना इसके कारण से हमारे प्रोजेक्ट्स जो है डिले होंगे 2-3-4 महीने के लिए. बट गवर्नमेंट ने ऑलरेडी दे हैव टेकन ए कॉल एंड इसमें आत्मनिर्भर भारत में ऑनरेबल फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर अनाउंस कि इसके कारण से किसी का भी जो है टाइम डिले वो है उसको कंडोन कराने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. दिस टाइम विल बी कंसीडर्ड एज अ टाइम गैप, अपने आप ही उसको कंसीडर कर लें. सो it's a mixed situation for all of us, as you have asked.
So we have a question from the audience. The question is primarily related to the hybrid annuity model. The question is that there are today a lot of private funds and investment companies who are willing to work or invest in water projects. But since sometimes some of these projects are state driven, is there any plan that the central ministry has in terms of doing the ham model and working with these investment companies? You have like companies like NIIF, we have Vital Capital and all.
Sir, the basic problem is that water being a state subject as per the constitution, we cannot do anything directly. We will have to drive whatever we wish to do is through state. Even in the 100% funded program like Namami Gange Mission, that too the projects we are organizing through the state mission. So it is a compulsion, and that is because of the constitutional provision. So I cannot help it. But as far as the ham is concerned, it's a really proven good model. And ham we have introduced in the Mission Ganga program because of our experience with the states. The earlier programs, works which were जो इसमें गंगा में through the National Ganga Mission 1-2 के समय में हुए थे. Experience उनका ये था that whatever work or facilities have been constructed at that time, some of them were never operational. बना दिया, center ने पैसा दिया, बन गया, but operational expenditure के लिए states were having no money or the municipalities are having no budget. That's why they could not even start. मैंने ऐसे projects भी देखे हैं, मैं आपको बता सकता हूँ, जो project 10 साल पहले sewage treatment facility बनी और उसका power connection नहीं हुआ 10 साल तक. So we took हमने उन projects को भी शुरू कराया and simultaneously we took this approach, this hybrid annuity mission, so that एक बार काम शुरू होने के बाद में 15 साल तक उसका ऑपरेशन एंड मेंटेनेंस भी वही गारंटी करें. 40% हम जो है इनिशियल अपफ्रंट पेमेंट करें and remaining 60% is to be paid along with the operation and maintenance charges, so that 15 साल तक उसकी कंटिन्यूटी बनी रहे. And as far as the Mission Ganga projects are concerned, we have gone one step further, that हमने चाहे एक भी प्रोजेक्ट बनाया होगा, but simultaneously one city one operator approach have been taken up. That एक प्रोजेक्ट हमने बनाया है, 3 प्रोजेक्ट पहले से काम कर रहे हैं, so preferably we would will evolve a mechanism कि चारों प्रोजेक्ट्स को एक ही ऑपरेटर को देखें, so that one man can be जो है उसको अकाउंटेबल बनाया जा सकता है and better performance can be arrived.
So one more question from the audience is that, there have been media reports of how the river Ganga and major rivers are cleaning themselves, and that it is because the lockdown has stopped industrial effluent from going into the water bodies. So is the government planning some kind of now a regulation or government focusing on ensuring that the industries, once the lockdown is lifted, don't start polluting the water bodies again?
See, is it possible? Though I have, Tare was telling, because he is I think he is a better person to answer this question. Not the policy front, but how the Ganga have or the rivers have been observed during this lockdown period. I'm not an engineer, neither am a scientist like Dr. Tare, but I can go जनरल बुद्धि से मैं जो बात कर सकता हूँ कि 3 तरह की चीजों के कारण से हमारी नदियां जो है या हमारे वाटर रिसोर्सेज जो हैं वो कंटामिनेट होते हैं. नंबर 1 is sewage, treated, untreated, semi-treated sewage which has been discharged. Number 2 is the industrial effluent, and number 3 are direct relations. Since all of our rivers and especially Ganga, Yamuna, Narmada, they are the rivers, they are considered as holy rivers, and हमारा इनके साथ में interaction जो है वो live है. Almost देश भर में पूरी गंगा की एंटायर लेंथ ऑफ गैंगेज राइट फ्रॉम देवप्रयाग से भी अगर मैं मानूं तो देवप्रयाग से लेकर के और कलकत्ता तक दिन भर में शायद मुझे लगता है 1 करोड़ लोग ऑन एन एवरेज जो है नदी के साथ में डायरेक्ट इंटरेक्ट करते हैं. आई विश टू शेयर माय एक्सपीरियंस. मैं जब स्टॉकहोम वाटर वीक में गया था तो आई वाज सिटिंग ऑन द डाइनिंग टेबल अलोंग विद द ब्रिटिश रिप्रेजेंटेटिव, जर्मन रिप्रेजेंटेटिव एंड द किंग ऑफ स्वीडन एंड क्वीन ऑफ स्वीडन. हम लोग टेबल पे बैठे थे and they was narrating the story about their success stories about Rhine for Germans and for Thames for the Britishers and Danube for the Swedish people. So King of Sweden initiated that discourse and he told that how the Danube is clear. Then I just asked a simple question that how many years it took to you, all of you. The answer was 27 to 30 years they took, all 3 rivers, to transform that river. I said, हम तो अभी 5 साल के बच्चे भी नहीं हुए हैं. Practically work started 3.5 years ago, और अभी 4 साल हमको काम करते हुए हैं, इसलिए you cannot compare. And the other thing जो मैंने उनको कहा कि मैंने किंग ऑफ स्वीडन को कहा दैट आपके देश की टोटल पॉपुलेशन 1 करोड़ है और मैं 1 करोड़ लोग रोज मेरी नदी में नहाते हैं. और सम ऑफ द टाइम क्या होता है, ऐसे इंसिडेंट्स होते हैं जब साल में कुछ डेज ऐसे होते हैं जिस दिन पूरी यूरोप की पॉपुलेशन जितनी है उतने लोग मेरी गंगा नदी में होते हैं. फिर भी हमने उनको कहा दैट माय रिवर इज, दिस वाज मंथ ऑफ आई थिंक नवंबर और दिसंबर, मैंने कहा माय रिवर इज, क्योंकि सिंस वी ऑर्गेनाइज्ड अ राफ्टिंग एक्सपीडिशन राइट फ्रॉम देवप्रयाग टू फ्रेजरगंज with the scientists of Wildlife Institute of India, some of the other environmentalists were there, and some adventure sports के लोग भी थे, कुछ aquatic life के लोग भी थे. ऐसे लोगों को consolidate करके एक rafting expedition किया था. And we took sampling किया सारे रास्ते में. I myself also have joined right from Deoprayag to Rishikesh, and अभी जो डॉक्टर तारे बता रहे थे, मैंने तो सब पूरे रास्ते में उठा करके पानी पिया और उन सबको भी पिलाया कि इसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, आप आराम से पी सकते हैं. और मैंने किंग ऑफ स्वीडन को कहा कि 1 करोड़ लोग तो रोज नहाते हैं, और जितनी आपकी यूरोप की पॉपुलेशन है उतने साल में 5-7 दिन ऐसे होते हैं, छठ जैसा दिन होता होगा या शरद पूर्णिमा जैसा दिन होगा, उस दिन उतने लोग नहाते हैं. फिर भी आवर रिवर इज, आई कैन प्राउडली से दैट इट इज वन ऑफ द क्लीनेस्ट रिवर जो दुनिया की 5-7 इस लंबाई की 2500 किलोमीटर लंबाई की नदियां देख लें उसमें से एक है. बट नो डाउट जो पोल्यूशन के 3 बड़े कारण हैं उसमें से 2 रुके हुए थे. इंडस्ट्री भी रुकी हुई थी और हमारा इंटरेक्शन भी रुका हुआ था. सो फॉर दोस डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ अप्रोचेस आर रिक्वायर्ड. नंबर 1 2 जो मैं पहले बात करूंगा जो हमारा इंटरेक्शन है उसके लिए उसके लिए हमको विल हैव टू क्रिएट एन अवेयरनेस अमंग द पीपल दैट वी आर द सोर्स ऑफ कंटेमिनेशन ऑफ रिवर. वो करना पड़ेगा, बहुत ग्रेजुअल होगा, बहुत धीरे परिणाम आएंगे उसके. But as far as the industrial affluents are concerned, 25 तारीख को लॉकडाउन इम्पोज हुआ था. 26 तारीख को प्राइम मिनिस्टर कॉल्ड मी एंड ही इंस्ट्रक्टेड मी कि पूरे रिवर स्ट्रेचेस पे, गंगा में, यमुना में एंड अदर रिवर स्ट्रेचेस wherever you are having facilities or you can do, सब स्टेक होल्डर्स को साथ में ले, IITs को साथ में ले, सेंट्रल पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड को साथ में ले, तुम्हारे डिपार्टमेंट के जितने जो है डिविजन्स जो उनकी है उनको सबको लगाओ और पूरे इस 21 दिन के पीरियडिकल सैंपलिंग कराओ ताकि यू विल एबल टू नो दैट हाउ मच पोल्यूशन इज बीइंग कंट्रीब्यूटेड बाय द इंडस्ट्री. उसको हमने स्टडी किया. दैट प्रिलिमिनरी रिपोर्ट इज इन माय हैंड, अभी मेरे पास में है. कुछ डेटा निश्चित रूप से उसके फर्क पड़ा है, बट ऐसा नहीं है कि हम जिस तरह से इंडस्ट्री को हमेशा पोल्यूशन के लिए अकाउंटेबल ठहराते थे, दैट इज नॉट कि कोई उसी से सारा पोल्यूशन हो रहा है. इस पूरे 50 दिन के लॉकडाउन के पीरियड में भी इम्पैक्ट्स जो आए हैं उसको हमने स्टडी किया. डिजॉल्व ऑक्सीजन नो डाउट बढ़ा है, बीओडी लोड थोड़ा कम हुआ है, सीओडी लोड में थोड़ा इंप्रूवमेंट हुआ है. ऐसा करके कुल मिलाकर के इंप्रूवमेंट हुआ. बट ऐसा नहीं है कि इंडस्ट्री एकमात्र जो है नदी को जो है खराब करने का कारण है. एज फार एज द गंगा इज कंसर्न, जितने वीडियोस दिखाए गए उसमें जो अपीयरेंस में पानी ठीक हुआ उसको दिखाया. मैं आपको कह रहा हूँ कि अगले साल लॉकडाउन नहीं होगा, फिर भी आप जाकर के इसी महीने में, जिस महीने की हम बात कर रहे हैं अप्रैल के महीने में जाकर के आप गंगा का ऋषिकेश में पिक्चर ले लीजिएगा और दोनों को कंपेयर कर लीजिएगा, 99.99% सेम मिलेगा. इससे बेटर ही मिलेगा क्योंकि तब तक मेरे 5-10 प्रोजेक्ट और पूरे हो जाएंगे. लेकिन ये इसलिए दिख रहा है, देखिए गंगा में टर्बिडिटी बिकॉज ऑफ द बरसात में जब पानी आता है उसके कारण टर्बिडिटी होती है. अभी इस समय में स्नो मेल्ट का पानी आ रहा है, वैसे ही क्लियर होती है. मेरी दादा के जमाने में मेरी ग्रैंडमदर कह रही थी तब भी इतना ही क्लियर मिला होगा, उतना ही आज क्लियर मिला होगा. बीच में कुछ गड़बड़ हुई, वो प्रधानमंत्री जी के नमामि गंगे मिशन ने ठीक कर दिया होगा. बट यमुना का जहां तक क्वेश्चन है, यमुना में इस समय में जो ड्यूरिंग लॉकडाउन अनप्रेसिडेंटेड रेन्स हुई इस समय में, अन वेरी गुड रेन्स, उसके कारण से वाटर फ्लो इन द रिवर बढ़ गया. जो हम टेक्निकली, जिसको हम थियोरिटिकली रादर आई शुड से, जिसको हम क्लेम करते हैं कि 300 क्यूसेक पानी यमुना में वजीराबाद के नीचे बहना चाहिए, लिटरली जो है वहां एक बूंद भी नहीं बहता. डॉक्टर तारे जानते हैं कि जो है सारा पानी जितना भी है 22 किलोमीटर के स्ट्रेच में यमुना में दिल्ली का सारा सूरज जाता है, जो ट्रीटेड भी है अनट्रीटेड भी है, दोनों तरह का सूरज जिसमें जाता है, वही बह करके आगे यमुना में और जो है मथुरा वृंदावन क्रॉस करके जाता है. चंबल आके मिलती है तब डाइल्यूशन होता है. कैसे कम कर सकते हैं, और कैचमेंट एरिया का ट्रीटमेंट करते हुए पुरानी छोटी छोटी रिवलेट्स को कैसे रिवाइव कर सकते हैं, उसके ऊपर काम करें, ताकि हम अपने नदियों में पानी बढ़ा सकें. पानी बढ़ेगा तो देयर विल बी हेल्दी रिवर्स.
So one final question, which most people in the audience are asking, they say that now there have been a lot of cost overruns in the government projects because of added labor, social distancing, and also, because of this has increased the cost. So because of COVID-19, is the government thinking of, looking at the contract terms and trying to work with the contractors in trying to rework the contracts or work with financial institutions to give them benefits?
Though I'm not directly deal with the contracts, because since as I have said that being state subject, the principal and the contractors are states, but still at my level, not a single case has been represented for as this. Not a single case has been represented neither by the states nor by the contractors that we will be facing this type of problem because of social distancing. I don't think कि अभी तक ऐसा कुछ हुआ है, और मुझे नहीं लगता practical knowledge of working on the ground for last 30-40 years, मुझे नहीं लगता कि ऐसा कोई क्वेश्चन आएगा कि सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग के कारण किसी की कॉस्ट बढ़ जाए. I just don't disagree with this.
So, sir, finally, would you like to give any kind of a message, your thoughts or on views on how the industry would now work towards put COVID behind and work back towards its full operational efficiency? Any message to the industry at large?
Sir, अब मैं ज़्यादा लंबी बात नहीं करना चाहता because I have to join the another meeting, but still I would like to say कि it's a time to transform and it's an opportunity to transform. इंडस्ट्री के लिए भी अपॉर्चुनिटी है. आज हम लोग जिस प्लेटफॉर्म पे बात कर रहे हैं, आज से अगर कोविड नहीं आया होता तो शायद हमने इस प्लेटफॉर्म पे बात करने की कल्पना भी नहीं की होती. सो ये ट्रांसफॉर्म करने की का टाइम है. इट्स एन अपॉर्चुनिटी. सो आई थिंक मैं तो इसको इसी तरह से इस कोविड की जो है महामारी को, दो इट्स पेनफुल, किसी भी ऐसे पैंडेमिक की सिचुएशन को एज एन अपॉर्चुनिटी कहना मे बी थोड़ा हार्श हो सकता है. It may hurt to somebody's feeling, but मैं ये कहूँगा कि इसको on the whole देश के लिए अपॉर्चुनिटी के लिए लेते हुए देखना चाहिए. दुनिया में बहुत सारी चीजें इसके बाद में बदलने वाली हैं. दो बिहेवियर चेंज बहुत बड़ा होगा, इसको मैं नहीं मानता, पर लेकिन लोगों के जो है आवश्यकताओं में बहुत सारी चीजों में परिवर्तन अभी आने वाला है. मैं अभी एक दिन एक जगह एक ऐसे ही वेब प्लेटफॉर्म पर बात कर रहा था, तो somebody said के साथ पूरी दुनिया के सोचने का तरीका बदल जाएगा. The day जिस दिन लिकर शॉप्स खुली और उनके बाहर लाइन लगी, तो मैंने उनको पिक्चर क्लिक करके भेजा कि कुछ नहीं बदला है, सब कुछ वैसा ही रहने वाला है. तो उन्होंने मुझे वापस कहा क्यों नहीं, वास्तव में वो एक साइकोलॉजी के प्रोफेसर थे, उन्होंने कहा सब कुछ बदल जाएगा, दुनिया के सोचने का तरीका बदल जाएगा, सब बात करने का तरीका बदल जाएगा. आई संडे में पिक्चर की, अभी देखिए कोई तरीका नहीं बदला है, जैसे ही खुला है वापस सब वैसे ही हो गया. बट तो भी हमको टू बी ऑन पॉजिटिव नोट, हमको जो है इस अपॉर्चुनिटी को यूज करते हुए हम न्यू इंडिया बनाने की तरफ अपनी इंडस्ट्री को कैसे ले जा सकते हैं. एंड द अदर्स, अभी जो आपने बात किया था कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स की बात की, आई कैन विजुअलाइज के कुछ ऐसे लोग होंगे जो इस तरह से गवर्नमेंट कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स के रूप में या ईपीसी कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स के रूप में काम करते होंगे इस प्लेटफॉर्म पर, या थ्रू दिस प्लेटफॉर्म जो सुन रहे होंगे. 200 करोड़ रुपए तक के काम जो है गवर्नमेंट ने डिसाइड कर दिया है कि लोकल कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स ही करेंगे. इट्स अ बिग मूव, और इसके ऊपर भी हम सबको मिलकर के काम करना चाहिए. एमएसएमई के लिए तो मुझे लगता है कि ये टाइम जो है गवर्नमेंट का जिस तरह से फोकस है, जिस तरह से फैसिलिटेट करने की कोशिश की गई है, मुझे लगता है कि ये कंप्लीट ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन का टाइम है. और फाइनली आई वुड से दैट चाइना को लेकर के जिस तरह का एक इमेज ग्लोबली बना है, उसको भी वी मस्ट कंसीडर एज एन अपॉर्चुनिटी. We have to identify the projects which are being imported from the China. Almost 70 billion का हमारा import होता है, उसको हम कैसे सब्साइड कर सकते हैं, उसमें से क्या प्रोडक्ट्स को आइडेंटिफाई करके. बिकॉज आई कैन टेल यू 10 प्रोडक्ट्स तो मैं अभी आपको टिप्स पे गिनवा सकता हूँ जिसका जो है रॉ मटेरियल हिंदुस्तान से जाता है, फिनिश होकर इसे चाइना से आता है. तो ऐसे सारे प्रोडक्ट्स को हम कैसे कर सकते हैं, उसमें अगर इंडस्ट्री को किसी भी तरह का पॉलिसी में जो है इंटरवेंशन की जरूरत है, काइंडली फील फ्री, कॉन्टैक्ट मी, आई विल स्टैंड बिहाइंड द इंडस्ट्री. एंड मैं गवर्नमेंट से बात करूंगा कि इसको जो है हमारे यहाँ एग्जीक्यूट करना चाहिए इन द इंटरेस्ट ऑफ द नेशन एंड इंडस्ट्री. उसके ऊपर काम करेंगे। सबको, भूपेंद्र जी को और कैलाश जी को, दोनों को so many thanks and everybody जिन्होंने मुझे इस वर्चुअल प्लेटफॉर्म पर सुना है, उन सबका बहुत सारा अभिनंदन। Stay safe.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking time out and addressing all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So that was the minister. There were many questions that we had from the audience, but because of the paucity of time, we couldn't pose all of these questions to him. So we will try to, his secretary was regularly pinging me that sir has to go. So we will try to address or send most of these questions to him. So coming back, I think to our panel discussion, Dr. Tare, my apologies that we had to, intervene in between when the minister arrived. So, sir, would you like to continue from where you left off?
Yeah, I think many things minister has already clarified, and he pointed out these are the three basic factors which are responsible. One is the industrial and commercial activities, interaction with the river, and the sewage, that is. And obviously, in my opinion, our experience with the lockdown period will give us definite lessons in terms of where our investment should go more, so that we get more value for the money that we spend or the efforts that we spend, right? So I'm sure there would be a definite this thing that we need to look at, because perception after all is very important, right? So if people are feeling that in the lockdown the improvements have happened, so obviously there has to be more emphasis on those reasons, right? And maybe little less on the sewage that we blame. Okay, and if, what the minister says and our study also says, not more than probably 5% of the length of the rivers in the entire basin is actually gets affected because of the pollution that comes from the point sources, particularly industries and sewage from cities, right? But many other domestic pollution actually does not reach the river, so that we can say that the river quality is affected. And of course, particularly the commercial activity and the tourism, we need to spend little more on how do we handle tourism, so that during the tourist period, the condition of the river that we see is not as bad as that we see, and we are really able to achieve the results that we have seen in the lockdown. And overall, in my opinion, it is not that we have to go for advanced methods for treatment, or bring in more degree of treatment or whatever. Whatever investment that we do, we may have to redistribute that with industries and the domestic control that we have.
So, Dr. Tariq, a specific question that I have is that I think the lockdown has shown that with the industry being shut, sewage was continuing to flow into the river Ganga.
Yes.
So, if the quality of water has improved, can we infer from this that it was primarily the industrial effluent one that was polluting the river? And two is that, would that be a solution that we focus more on the industrial effluent to stop polluting our local water bodies?
Certainly, there is going to be more emphasis on the reuse and recycle within the industry, and internalizing the effects of pollution within our industrial development. That I'm sure will. No doubt, industries, if you look at total length of the river, it is hardly 5%. But that 5% is what gets focused everywhere. When people say Ganga is the most polluted river, which is actually not true, Minister has explained very well, right? Ganga is not the most polluted river of there. But certain places, maybe less than 5% of the length of the river is definitely more polluted, and that is what we see all the time, pictures and photographs, and that is where we need to focus our efforts there. that whatever we spend, we get value for money, and we see improvements in those 5% stretches of the river, and industries definitely are there. And so far as Ganga is concerned, you hardly see directly any industries except probably in Kanpur and some places, but most of the industrial effluent, they pass or they come through the drains and tributaries. And when these drains and tributaries join, many times they get dried up, and we blame the industry, but these drains are the one which actually look very dirty. And as Minister has said, if you have to improve Ganga, we cannot ignore these drains. These drains in their own right are small rivulets, small rivers which feed into the larger river. And we need to focus more on making sure even these small rivers in their own right, be it Shahadra drain in Delhi, be it Nazafgarh drain in Delhi, you cannot think of improving Yamuna unless until Nazafgarh becomes river in its own right. Then Yamuna will automatically become river in its own right. Similarly, Shahadra, which we call it drain, if that becomes river in its own right, obviously Yamuna will become. And another important river in Delhi is Hindon. So if you work on these small tributaries, so the focus more has to be on making sure that small rivers, and the local people should take the responsibility of doing that. And of course, the technology and other things, knowledge will automatically come in.
Thank you, Dr. Tare. I will try to now move to the urban local bodies perspective. So, Dr. Sonavne, a question that I have is, you have spent close to 35 years with urban bodies. So, what do you think are the challenges that the urban local bodies have seen in the last 45 days, whether it is, as the minister said, with regards to budgets, because most of the budgets are moving towards COVID treatment. How do you think the urban local bodies will see budget allocations and all those getting affected? Sir, you need to unmute, I think, yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir, you are.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for giving this opportunity. You see, now urban local bodies will have two basic challenges. First challenge they have already overcome, I believe, running the existing systems, existing schemes. Existing water supply schemes are really properly maintained during last 50 days of lockdown period. You must have mentioned, you must have observed one thing. There isn't a single case of unrest of scarcity of water in urban areas. Normally, you see, water being essential services, had those people refused to work due to the fear of death, then it would have been very difficult for urban local bodies to actually control the unrest of citizens. So as far as existing schemes are concerned, urban local bodies have really managed well. And even in city like Mumbai, it was the biggest challenge, but they have overcome it successfully. Second, you see, the existing or the ongoing projects, there are some clauses in the tender document itself. As the minister, honorable minister has rightly said, there is bound to be time overrun and cost overrun. And the urban local bodies already, they do not have adequate funds to fund the existing projects. Now, due to this time overrun, and there is bound to be escalation. There is escalation clause, but it will not be enough. Maybe the prices will go up, and the city administrators, the city managers will have to take the decision. They will have to invoke that force majeure clause, which is always there in the contract. And then the urban local bodies will have to pay more from their budget. They will have to decide the priorities, and water sector should always be the first priority. May it is water supply or even sewage treatment, it should be the first priority. So they will have to allocate the funds. And here the role of central government and state government will be very important. Like the existing missions, Amrut mission. So the central government will have to allocate more funds for Amrut mission to help urban local bodies. And state governments will also have to contribute more.
I will also move to Mr. Raj Cherubal, who is the CEO for Chennai Smart City. Sir, can you share your experience of the last 50 days in terms of how you have managed, to handle, the various smart water related projects for Chennai Smart City? Sir, can you be a little bit louder, please?
Yeah, can you hear me now properly? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I think during the initial lockdown, everything was shut, and there was obviously the caution, and not much work was being done. But then what we also realized is that as the lockdown was relaxed from also the state government, we have started some of the work back again. For example, especially the work that requires a lot of whether it's a road cut sometimes where you need police permission or public itself will be inconvenient. These are the projects that can be done now with the capital road. Some of the stormwater drains involve cutting across roads and so on. So I think we have, while the work has stopped initially, some of the work has already picked up, and we are prioritizing the work that will not only move fast, but also that would have created the inconvenience to the public. With respect to the other projects, the same approach. I think we can't wish away the pandemic, but at least we can plan in such a way that a lot of work that otherwise would have taken a lot of time and effort can be done during the lockdown period.
So Dr. Sonane, how would you recommend that now that the lockdown is poised to be lifted up, how should urban local bodies start to replan and open up their plants, and how should they go about the budgeting and labor issues that they might face? Sir, you need to unmute, sir.
No, it is okay. It was done from your end only. Yeah. Labor shortage will be the biggest issue. You see in Maharashtra, on most of the projects, laborers from Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, they were working. Now, most of them have gone back to their native places. And I don't think they will come back for next 1 year or even 2 years. So local laborers, they are not that much committed here. You see, I do not want to blame them, but for years together we are dependent on migrant laborers as far as Maharashtra is concerned. Same is the case in other states also. On bigger projects, most of the laborers working, they were from either Bihar or Uttar Pradesh. So labor shortage will be the biggest issue, and that will have to be tackled at local level. We have been facing problem of unemployment, so we'll have to encourage local laborers, local unemployed youth to actually grab this opportunity and work. And as far as financial resources are concerned, again as I said earlier, see, health, water, and education, these three should be the priority sectors now. And priority has to be given to water sector, because in most of the urban local bodies, you do see water supply schemes. But what about sewage schemes? Most of the cities do not have adequate sewage treatment facilities. And COVID-19, mind well, you see, most of you must have actually read the report published in Lancet, which says that even if a patient is cured through his excreta, if it transmits sewage, and it can sustain, that COVID virus can really remain live in sewage. And if it is retransmitted, if it affects people again through sewage system, then it will be beyond the control of urban local bodies and beyond the control. Really do not want to frighten the people, but the fact remains that control of COVID-19 is not limited to now the treatment given to the patients. Post COVID-19, the urban local bodies will have to focus on their sewage treatment and ensure that the virus does not remain there. Though yes, sewage has to be properly treated. You please read the report of Lancet, which is published in Lancet, a medical journal.
I would now like to ask Dr. Rashmi Singh, Additional Municipal Commissioner for Delhi, to come in. Ma'am, there has been a lot of talk. Dr. Sonavne was talking about how labor could be an issue. So I wanted to get your inputs in terms of how can technology or how advancements in technology and digital technology, how can they help transform urban local bodies and their functioning? Ma'am, you need to unmute.
Yeah, thank you. So I'd be listening to the discussion more focusing on the water side, but I do feel that like now given an opportunity to speak on the role of urban local body as a whole and the response, in the current times, and you brought in the aspect of technology. So I think, this is the time when all the ULBs have been challenged into looking at the kind of pressure which times like these have posed on the city services. Now, what these services are in terms of not just the infrastructure, in terms of access to even very, very basic services. So one is provision of infrastructure and the other aspect is, access to all and whether you are being able to provide equitable access to all. So that way, the kind of challenge thrown today is telling us that technology to be best used also to, to see whether we are able to, have some kind of a predictive tool, so that the access is equitably distributed and it brings you to the entire issue of habitat, so it's the urban habitat as a whole and definitely water, sanitation, hygiene, our public health services, they're all a part of the same habitat. So, it has challenged us to look at ways of deploying technology to improve the efficiency of our resources. Because all the ULVs, today when they are stretched to perform to the best, which they've been trying to in many ways, but, given all the constraints, be it manpower, be it financial resources, so all the more reason how we can make best use of technology, to ensure that we are utilizing all our resources to the optimum capacity. And as far as digital access is concerned, we do think that in the ways of our working, the kind of horizontal and vertical integration are needed, within the government, within the various departments of governments, the kind of linkages, the kind of synergies which are needed, so communication plays a very, very important role. And communication, one is within the various agencies of the government and at the same time, a connect and communication with the citizens. So people who are living in this habitat, whether we are able to communicate with them, whether they are able to communicate with us, what kind of dialogue is there, whether we are able to respond on a real-time basis, that is the huge challenge. And I think more and more, the advancement in terms of both human interface and technological tools that we can deploy, to, as I said, to map the areas of vulnerability, so we have to know, which are the areas, where to reach out, who's reaching out, how quickly we can reach out. And I think it is very possible if we have very, very collaborative, and as I say, that are dynamic, real-time database, data inflow, and then our response to bring together the various partners, the various stakeholders, so that whatever resources we are deploying, it goes to the last mile. I think, that was my initial thought on the subject. Thank you.
So just a follow-up question, madam, that we have seen in the past that whenever technology is tried to be implemented in any organization, there is obviously resistance to it. And there is a perception that it's very strong within the government sector. How would you recommend that corporations go about addressing this change?
Okay. See, one is that, everybody has to be sensitized that today you need new ways of doing things. And, it's not the same solution which you had been used to, the same kind of working style which you had been used to will always prove to be good. So I think by and large, given the kind of challenges that we face, even within the government, that challenge to an individual perception that the way in which we have worked is the best, that is changing. And I think it is for the good that it is changing, and people are becoming more used to, not just the communication, even monitoring, the monitoring, reporting. Now, these are very simple things, but in government, very, very important. Like in times like these, how do you think all the urban local bodies, how do you think they've managed to have their services going? Because somewhere there was a system of reporting, somewhere there was a system of monitoring, which could ensure that sanitation services, whether it is going to a household, which may be affected in an area which you call a containment zone, but you have to ensure that your sanitation services, your Safai Karamchari is reaching over there, that the biomedical waste is being collected over there, and it is going to the right place for disposal. So somewhere that, kind of accountability, which is there, and especially times like these, so they were made like, more robust, by having a better management information system, the MIS in place, by various kinds of digital technology, I would say. I mean, web-based, even your WhatsApp, every day, people are going to report that, okay, they have reached this particular place and they have performed their duties, your biometric attendance system, all kinds of tools have been applied to ensure that, these very, very critical in times like these, they do not get away.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. There was a slight disturbance, but now it's clear.
Yeah. Okay. So, one is that, okay, incentivizing people who are using such tools, technology, and the other is making things mandatory also. So I think, in times like these, a learning has been that there are people, who have come up with new ways. Well, like, I can talk to you about, like, we have education department, which are now adopting online digital tools, to ensure that students, they do not miss out upon the learning opportunity even during these times. There are doctors, we have these Ayush doctors. Now, we had a helpline open, given the doctor's numbers, and there are people who called up, people who felt like disturbed on many accounts, emotional, and needing certain support in terms of what to eat, not feeling well. So, it's not exactly telemedicine, but telecounseling also went on like that. So digital education, telecounseling, your monitoring systems. Now, I'm also aware of many municipalities which open COVID war zones, right? And, so how do you map the various services, link the various services? How do you get the information? Using your control and command centers. So there are these integrated control and command centers, which also, tell you about what's happening on the ground. So that was another way in which technology has been used. And well, we have, like, since drones, you might have seen, use of drones for generally, like, doing these, sanitization of these critical containment areas, more vulnerable areas where there were higher number of cases. So many of the urban local bodies, I think, have used technologies like these, with less of manpower, yet you need more efficiency. So what do? I mean, you have to think of new ways in which like you can reach out people in a faster time, faster mode, and ensure that your critical services, they do not get compromised.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. Mr. Cherubal, we have a specific question from the audience for you. The question is that how do you look at the water scarcity issue, encroachment of multiple traditional lakes over years, and prevention of future large-scale floods in Chennai? So how is the CSCL and GCMC together looking at these issues?
So actually, sir, believe it or not, as we speak, there are about 210, 220 water bodies being restored in Chennai. So it's almost like a mini miracle. Almost like I would joke that it's a Guinness Book of World Record kind of thing. See, what is interesting is that before we get very advanced with technology and so on, there are some very basic things that the city needs to do. And I'll put it this way, okay? Imagine this was December 2019. All our cities had a long list of problems, long list of things to be done. Ask yourself this question: have all those problems been done? Not really, right? We still have those problems. So, like the question asked, there are many, many, many water bodies in all our cities, whether it's called a river or a pond or a lake. They're polluted, they are encroached, they are not functioning the way it's supposed to, and give the environment and other benefits to humans and living beings. So my point is, we should also focus on the projects and problems that existed in December of 2019, because nothing much has changed from then on. So that itself is a Herculean task, and obviously with pandemic and whatnot, we have to look at new issues. And the elephant in the room, of course, is the climate change. I mean, we are not even that's coming, whether we like it or not. The problems are coming. So my point is, there are very simple things that the cities can do, and that's something we have discovered. We used smart city money, other funds, plus very importantly CSR funds, and we created a very, very simple framework by which a company, for example, has some CSR fund for fixing water body. What we did was we said, okay, here are the basics of what a eco restoration of a pond means. You can join up with an NGO, and we will help you with the size and the depth and the various surveys of the pond, and sometimes the NGOs help. But whatever it is, the process was made simple so that we went from 0 to 210 in just a matter of less than 2.5 years. And now I think, from what I understand, the Honorable Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu has asked the other districts to follow this model. We've had actually a few interactions with the Jal Shakti ministry when they came here to Chennai. We showed them what we've done. My point is, all cities of India can do that, irrespective of technology, irrespective of whether we know advanced technology or not. It's basically eco-restoration of water body. So similarly, on the other hand, for example, the question becomes, okay, fine, you do this water body restoration. How are you going to monitor it? So I think we need to look at realistic ways of how public and officials can keep an eye on these water bodies. So for example, with various other agencies also, we have already looked at drones and satellite-based images, where you can do a lot of interesting analytics to figure out, is the water body being encroached. There are drones which can land on the water, take a water sample, and tell you if there is pollution there. So what I'm trying to say is that you can't expect a corporation engineer to go every day to the water body and take a picture and water sample. That's not practical, because he or she will have million other things to worry about. And we are understaffed, underskilled, and so on. But there are very interesting technologies by which not only do we restore water body, but also help the public and the official keep an eye on the water body, so that, let's assume somebody tries to build a religious institution, or somebody is trying to encroach a water body. The satellite analytics or the drone analytics can easily figure out that a square has become a rectangle, or rectangle has become a triangle. It's basic analytics. Or for example, through water sampling periodically through drone and other mechanisms, you will be able to figure out that somebody is letting sewage in or throwing garbage into it. So I think without getting overwhelmed, but because the reason I'm bringing this up is, with the pandemic, obviously, and even before pandemic, it was the problems for cities looked so overwhelming and so, almost depressing. All I'm saying is, let's be optimistic. There are simple ways of taking care of some of these problems. And then let's move forward. Finally, as part of the Smart City Chennai Smart City project, the Metro Water is basically the authority which deals with water. We are working with them for some very, very interesting cutting edge project. One is, for example, metering of all the big commercial buildings. So what the problem in, I suppose, in every city is that the water agency doesn't know how much water is being used, how much is being lost, etc. And like they say in management, if you can't measure, you can't manage. So one of the first things we are helping them do is about 12,000 odd commercial buildings, malls, movie theaters, and so on, putting smart meters to figure out how much water is being consumed. And very importantly, this will help because this also saves money, not only obviously, but also indirectly, where, for example, similarly, we're doing with the electricity department. And for each meter reading, it takes X rupees for a person to go check the meter. Then there'll be problems with the meter, then there'll be a fight with the consumer, and so on and so forth. With smart meter, obviously, a lot of this information is sent over the web or various other mechanism, where the collection of data itself becomes easy, and you can shut off meter remotely, you can switch on meter remotely, and so on. So I think some of those technologies are available, and at least in Chennai, and I'm sure the other cities we are looking into it. Then, for example, there's a very interesting technology where, as you know, a lot of water is being supplied in Chennai through trucks, I mean the lorries, right? So what happens is that the lorry guy or the engineer, for example, sometimes may not know how much water actually went into the truck, or it could be, some kind of a collusion for that matter. So what we're doing is like almost like an ATM. That my truck guy is given a ATM card, where when he inserts into the machine, only so much allocated water is released into his truck. And I think around 150 odd stations have already equipped with this machine, and the smart cards have been given to the water trucks. So I think like this, a lot of interesting projects are in the pipeline. But I still insist that before we get overwhelmed by the problem that we're facing, I think there are some very basic things like water body restoration that can easily be done by every city in our country. Because if we don't have source for water, then what's the point of talking about other things? So let's fix the source. While we do other things, let's also fix the source. And I'm pretty sure every city in our country has a bunch of water bodies that needs restoration. And Chennai, we are more than happy to help you with the documents, framework, whatever homework we have done. More than happy to share it with you, so that you can probably start off in a pilot mode and get public and officials involved to start a mega city-wide project.
Thank you, Mr. Cherubal. My next two questions are to Dr. Tare. We have Tariq Siddiqui who is asking this question, sir, that in California, coronavirus traces were found in municipal wastewater. What precaution is the Indian government taking or should take to save water supply from getting infected by this virus?
Well, I think, yes, it has been detected in wastewater, but I think the traditional water treatment process, wherein we do disinfection either using chlorination or ozonation or UV radiation. I think, to the best of my knowledge, still there is no threat if these water treatment plants and the disinfection processes that are adopted there are properly maintained. At this stage, I don't think we have to get threatened by this. And but yes, it is important that we maintain the water treatment plants very well. And of course, the sewage, people should not come in contact with the sewage. So there are proper protocols that are required for people who are operating and maintaining the sewage treatment plants, and also particularly those who are handling the sewage samples. Okay, so that protocol, like it is followed in any other hospital, that you should sanitize and things like that, that is important. But to the best of my knowledge, I think there is no threat so far as the water supplies are concerned, if water treatment plants use the existing disinfection practices properly.
Sir, one more question to you by Mr. Nimish Mathur. The question is, what steps should be taken to increase the self-assimilative capacity of our rivers?
Well, one of the, see, there is nothing much that you can do about the self. One of course is whatever amount of water that needs to be flowing in the river, that should be flowing, and the encroachments in the river, as has already been mentioned, that encroachment of water bodies and the flow in the water body, that needs to be enhanced in order to increase the purifying capacity, the self-purifying capacity of the water bodies.
Thank you, sir. Sir, my next question is to Dr. Sonawne. Sir, we have a question from Maria from ABB. She says, what impact will we see on the capex on water projects in 2020 and 21? Will we see the expenditure go down drastically or it will remain same?
Pardon, will you please repeat the question?
So the question is, what impact will we see on the capex on water projects in 2020 and 2021? Will we see expenditure on water projects go down or will they remain constant?
The capex, the capital cost is bound to increase. The answer is very simple. The capital cost is bound to increase due to several factors. Maybe there will be a gap in demand and supply. You see, due to lockdown, most of the industries were not in a position to manufacture the pipes which are required. Even the raw material cost will also go up. If the raw material cost goes up, if crude oil prices go up, certainly the capital cost is going to go up. And even most important, again, as I said earlier, the labor cost will go up. So capex is bound to go up.
So one more question is that, with the funds crunch that might come up post COVID-19, with, most of the budgets moving or shifting focus towards the, COVID's healthcare situation, what would be the role of private investments, sir, in, stepping in and trying to fund or work with the urban local bodies?
You see, PPP projects have been successful in Maharashtra, but you see, water is a service industry, service sector, and in service sector, the primary responsibility has to be with the urban local body. I can quote you the example of Nagpur, when 24 with the help of a private player, OCW, the name of the agency, and it has proved quite successful. But elsewhere in Maharashtra, there are more than 300 urban local bodies. In other local bodies, I have not seen that kind of successful implementation of a water supply project on PPP model.
So we will try, to change the format a little bit. We have asked a lot of questions. If I could ask one by one, if the panelists were to give their views on what they think should be the priorities and strategies for reviving the water and wastewater projects. So if we could start with you, Mr. Cherubel, what would you suggest should be the priorities or strategies that urban local bodies could adopt?
नेट डाउन नाहीये, हे चालू आहे, फक्त विजिबल नाहीये तिकडचा व्हिडिओ.
I think Mr. Cherubel cannot hear us. Dr. Tare, would you like to take this as to what would you suggest should be the priorities and strategies that the government or government institutions can adopt to, come out of the COVID situation?
What lesson from my perspective is, I don't think we have to get threatened because of the COVID, but certainly yes, our priorities need to change. Okay, one is certain places we have to go for more automation, modernization, particularly where there is labor shortage. But at the same time, one thing that we learned from this COVID is people consider themselves to be safe very close to their places, right? And they would like to work very close to their places, right? And that is where wherever we have more people, more labor, I think there it should be more labor incentives, like for example, creating more water bodies and things like that. Okay, so and also we have to make sure that emphasis is given more on concentrated waste, okay, rather than putting so much emphasis only on sewage, particularly for example from villages. We now see that the pollution from the villages, even though they are large in number, actually reaching to the water bodies is very less, right? It is only the bigger cities, and that too we have to think whether we have to invest too much on going up to tertiary treatment, or you can change that and focus more on industrial waste treatment, which is really giving us much better results. So I think reuse, recycle within the industry, more investment in sewage or waste that is generated from commercial activities and industrial activities. That is what should be our focus. And the sewage treatment, yes, we need to do, but I think it can be a little less emphasized compared to the industrial and commercial activities focus on.
Dr. Singh, what would your priorities or strategies be with regards to urban local bodies using as much automation or digitization as much as possible?
First and foremost, I think priority would be for most of the urban local bodies to have as much of online services, so that the citizens' interface and users' experience, is better. In fact, in one of the comments I just saw, somebody saying this, that why we have to keep making repeated visits to the government, why we can't have more information, which is like, I think there has to be a greater fillip around that, to reduce the face-to-face, kind of I won't really use the word red tape, but, that's how people perceive. So, why not have more of services which can be delivered at the doorstep, digitally. Like these days we tried with a birth and death certificates. So there were a number of people who used to come queue in the zonal offices for the birth and death certificate, whereas it could be automated. Yeah, so it's like one of the examples. Like for water connection, now not that we give the connection, because in Delhi it is the Delhi Jal Board, which is like primarily responsible for water distribution and connections. But all these things, like if they are like more online, but I think there's a catch to it, that how many people really have the digital access. So it's important simultaneously to bridge the digital divide. So, to do that, it is, access to the hardware. Yeah, knowing how the, suppose you have a system in place, but you don't know how to use it. So you have to be digitally enabled to use it. There are people from the old guards who would say that we have a computer, but, we don't know how to, actually use it. So with the new generation now, very, very important for the ULBs, right from the primary education to bridge digital divide, by showing the kind of immense potential which today, our children the use of digital technology. And because you asked about water, so I would also like to just comment on the water aspect, that more of awareness, people's awareness, people participation also needed there, for conservation, for rainwater harvesting, for reducing the leakages, and I think women can have a big role in it, because I've seen how much women are affected, waiting for the water tankers. They have to, like, yeah, it means, loss of wages for them if they don't know what time, the water is going to come. If they don't have the pipe connection, they are probably like putting their small children, to stand in queues, missing out on school. So I think somewhere that, again, that mapping, people knowing, okay, what time the water will come, that certainty. So I think people's awareness, people's participation is also very, very important. And, obviously improving the efficiency, of our resources is very important. So again, I would say that's a two-way thing, that the more accountable, people actually, put the system to be, the more the system would be forced to respond to it. So, and in terms of some other things, like I would like to, talk about the need for data analytics. That is something which is like very, very important, for say vulnerability mapping, spatial mapping, and then to reach out, to reduce risk, to have a better access. So I think the data analytics tools, which can enable us to do that, is also something which all the ULBs in times to come would be deploying definitely, like more, by, I mean, I just hope, because I do think that, there's a huge unmet need for, that kind of analytic tools to be applied. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. Dr. Sonavne, what would you recommend as strategies or priorities that urban local bodies should have as they prepare to get out of this situation and also plan for future projects?
You see, right now, COVID-19 is the priority, but COVID-19 is not the only threat. There is a tremendous threat to the existence of mankind. Today it is COVID-19, tomorrow it may be something different. So urban local bodies' first priority should be to strengthen the hospital, to strengthen the medical services, especially hospitals and medical educational institutes. Second, to provide the civic services. Again, water supply is the obligatory duty, but merely water supply is not the obligatory duty. Water supply as well as treatment of sewerage. So that should be the second priority. Education. So more and more IEC activities. Education does not mean only obligatory duty of imparting primary education. Education means not only giving, not only teaching to the students, even education for the parents, education for the citizens, that is also required. We have to be more and more health conscious. You see, the kind of things which you have seen during last 50 days, most of the people followed government instructions scrupulously, but those 10%, 20% people, those who are not ignorant, had they been ignorant, we can pardon them, we can forgive them, but they are effrontery in nature. They dare to challenge the authorities. For such kind of people, you really need to uh, uh, undertake such kind of IEC activities, information communication and education activities, so that these kind of effrontery people can also fall in line and follow the rules and regulations scrupulously. That was the biggest challenge that we have faced in most of the cities, that even educated people behave like an illiterate people. And the queues that you saw for going back to their homes. In fact, people were safe wherever they were. The cities which had given them their bread and butter, they were willing to leave the city only for one simple reason: there is a threat to their life. What is the percentage of that threat? It is hardly, the mortality rate is less than 3%. So that threat everyone perceived as a threat to himself. It was not threat to that person. Still, the people, they started leaving the cities. So the urban local bodies now will have to focus more on such kind of activities, ISA activities, wherein they really inculcate good civic habits in the citizens. And of course, infrastructure is a priority. People need infrastructure. People come to cities because they get better health services, better education services, and better employment opportunities. So urban local bodies will also have to give more priority to creating employment opportunities. But we say the cities are engines of growth. Though urban local bodies will have to shoulder that responsibility, they are the foundation of our government system. Urban local bodies really provide face-to-face direct services. Even state government and central government, they provide services indirectly, whereas urban local bodies provided services directly. That's why urban local bodies need to be given more autonomy, and urban local bodies will have to give more priority to improve the standard of living in their cities by giving better healthcare services.
One final question, Dr. Sonawane, is that it has been oft repeated, you hear it nowadays, the minister mentioned it, that the post-COVID scenario, we are going to see completely new ways of doing things. So how do you think the water and the wastewater sector could, see new ways of doing things? You mentioned that water supply is a priority for the ULBs, but how can ULBs now tackle the water supply and wastewater projects in a new way?
Yeah, imagine the situation wherein had the people working in water supply sector refused to work, what would have happened? There would have been total anarchy. What is the way out then? Use SCADA system for treatment of water, from treatment of water to distribution of water, wherein there is less human intervention, less existing systems are labor oriented. Existing systems require human intervention at each and every stage. Whereas if you adopt a SCADA kind of system wherein everything can be monitored by sitting in air conditioned room, so your water treatment, your water distribution networks will have to be monitored through information technology. That is one way of doing the things. That will be one not new, which is already in practice in Western countries, in developed countries. It will have to be now replicated in our urban areas, and that is the need of the hour. And second, sewerage. Somehow I beg to actually differ with Dr. Tare. I don't know whether he has read that Lancet article or not. I would request him to read that article. There is really a threat of transmission through sewerage water. And I have seen only one city in India, Vadodara, wherein the sewerage is properly treated through a technology developed by BARC, radiation technology. The sludge is also even treated. The sludge is also treated in such a way that no pathogens, no bacteria can survive in it. And that kind of approach will have to be taken. In fact, first of all, our sewerage has to be treated properly, and second, the sludge has to be properly disposed. The threat is from a sludge which is normally used as a compost in farms, in agriculture sector. So there will be a threat which cannot be ignored right now.
So we are nearing to the very end of the webinar since we are close to the time closing. So Dr. Tare, any information that you could share with regards to the Namami Gange projects, because we have got a lot of questions from the people where they say that after the initial excitement about the project, somehow the Namami Gange project seems to be slowing down, or it seems to be, losing interest.
Well, I think what is required is initially the government put in some money like 20,000 crores in the last 5 years or whatever. But I think the amount of investment that is needed is many-fold times than what is given. And I don't think that much funding will again come from the government. So it is very important that the private investment comes in into this sector, right? And more opportunities given for public-private partnership. And more importantly then is you have to make sure that some kind of revenue generation mechanism is also allowed. Okay, right now if you see the HAM model or the PPP that it is done under Namami Gange, there is actually only government putting in the money. There is no revenue model, and the revenue model can only come when we talk about making sure that sewage is a raw water, and we produce more and more water of usable quality, and the water that can be utilized and for which revenue can be generated, right? Only then there will be interest from the private sector. And that means you have to go more for decentralization, where the sewage is generated, you make sure that the water is of the desired quality is produced right there, and so that you spend less money on transport of sewage to long distance and then bringing back that treated water back into the system, right? So we need to go in for different kind of approach, that we have large number of small STPs, and those small STPs are managed by the local. Of course, you need a better coordination amongst them. So this is the kind of shift that has to go on. A more private investment has to come in. Okay, there has to be a revenue generation mechanism because government just can't put in so much money. Yes, government can always put in the some share, but not 100% as it is being done right now. And that means local residents welfare association, local bodies have to take the responsibility, and they have to understand that water is a very important thing, and sewage is one of the source which is very reliable source of water available all the time.
Dr. Singh, you wanted to come in and say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to introduce, because I saw a question about any particular successful model, regarding STPs. And so when I was with the New Delhi Municipal Council as the secretary, so in our parks, we had this PPP model, of decentralized STPs, which were set up by the private players, where we had a buyback arrangement. So the entire water which was treated over there in the parks, it was being consumed, by the horticulture department for watering the plants. And with an assured buyback arrangement, it is a good, successful revenue model which people, might like to look at. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. Robin, we are, past the time that was scheduled for the webinar. So, would you want to do the thank you address to all the participants and the attendees?
Sure. We'd like to thank you first, Mr. Shirodkar. Thank you for your moderation. And we'd like to thank all the panelists on behalf of IFART India. We'd like to thank all the panelists for your insights and this wonderful discussion. We had close to 900 participants that attended this webinar. And we had several questions and interactions. Of course, we couldn't take all of them, but I think most of it is answered by our panelists. We once again thank you, and we also thank the Honorable Minister for joining us. Thank you very much, dear panelists.
Thank you, Robin. And with that, we come to the end of this webinar. We will try to, segregate the questions out of some of them which were unanswered and send it to the respective panel members to see if we can get their inputs. And we will try to share it with the people, who had asked those questions. So I would like to thank, all of you, and request you if you could please, participate in the, poll or the feedback form that is available, which would help us streamline and make such sessions more relevant to you in the future. So thanking you, all of you, once more. And thanking all the panelists.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Shirodkar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shirodkar. Thank you once again.